What am I watching? Tottenham have somehow just made the top four. Thomas Frank, why can't we play like we do in the Champions League in the Premier League? We've just beaten Frankfurt. We've just beaten Borussia Dortmund in back-to-back games. People saying the Premier League isn't the strongest league in the world. We have just made the top four. Xavi Simons, excellent tonight. Solanke comes off the bench. Kolo Muani with a goal. Everything about the performance today, we should be happy about. Clean sheet, 3 points, had the better chances. And yes, people out there are going to say it's just Frankfurt. You got to understand that what with the atrocity we have had to watch this season in the Premier League. We come out there with more possession, more higher XG. They only had 4 shots and they only had 1 chance where they hit the crossbar. We were by far the better team, and that is what I want to see, Frank. That is what I can get behind and support. The way we've played in the Champions League this season, we only lost 1 game, which was against the current European champs, PSG. And yes, we had an easier set of fixtures than a lot of teams, but you can only beat what's in front of you. We drew with Bodo Glimt, and I was furious at that. Now I look back on that, that's probably a good point. They beat Atletico Madrid tonight. They beat Man City. How have Bodo Glimt beaten Atletico Madrid and Man City in the last 2 games? Honestly, this Champions League campaign has been insane. This format is so much better than what we saw with the 4 teams in group stage stuff. That is exactly what we can get behind. Genuinely, the format has got so much more excitement. It really, really has. Like, I'll look at it this way. That win is probably Thomas Frank's biggest win so far. And bearing in mind, like I said, the amount of players we had out injured. Romero at the moment, another assist. I think he's got 11 goal contributions this season, and the guy's a centre-back. Make sure you go down, smash that like button to pieces. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button. The road to 20,000 on this channel is well and truly on. We're now under 500 away from hitting 11,000. For me, that performance was fantastic. We're going to get into the lineup. And do you know what? This was the only real 11 we could pick. You know, Jed Spence, Romero, Danso, Udogie, Van der Ven, of course, out for this game, as well as Pedro Porro is now out for 4 weeks. There's still 3 or 4 days left this transfer window. We still can somehow salvage our season if we want to actually go and act on it. You know, for me, like, I'm not going to lie, I look at that game. Yes, Frankfurt aren't a great side, but you can only play what's in front of you. And the most important thing is coming away with a win. You know, Simmons was good tonight. Sarr was good. Archie Graham, Palhinha. You can't really fault anyone. He made the right change as well, taking off Odobert, who then come on. Solanke then got his goal. You know, we by far deserve that. In terms of the bench, Solanke come on 75 minutes. Dane Scarlett, you know, look at the players we had out. And bearing in mind, Conor Gallagher wasn't eligible. The new left back from Santos wasn't eligible. You know, neither was Matthias Tell, Richarlison, Kudus, Bentancur, Bergvall, Van der Ven, Davis, Madison, Kulusevski. That's 9 injuries there alone. And we went there. We had the better chances. Before we get into the goals, look at the match stats. You know, 55% possession in a little bit of a hostile atmosphere. Much higher XG. 15 shots, 6 on target, 5 big chances created. And the first goal that we scored early on should never have even been ruled out either. 90% passing accuracy. And that win, as you can see, puts us in the top 4, which means we should have home advantage in the next round of the Champions League, which for me is absolutely fantastic. Now, go and sort this Premier League form out, because the Premier League form this season has been disastrous. But that, for me, by far the best performance we've had. We scored early on in the opening couple of minutes. How they've ruled that out, I can't even remember who put the ball in the back of the net. It was so early on. I'm pretty sure he ruled it out because of a foul. It never, ever should have been a foul. It was very, very soft. But we scored early on, and we were by far, you know, I think it was Xavi Simons who actually scored early on, but they ruled it out for whatever reason, you know. And then the opening goal comes from Kolo Muani. It's Christian Romero again in and around the 6-yard box, 18-yard box. Headers it back across goal. And Kolo Muani, who's now got 3 goals in the Champions League, if he can convert that form to the Premier League, we may actually have half a player on his hands, even though he's heavily linked to a move away to Juventus. But he comes on into the 11 today, scores. Romero, again, like I've said this before, and I'll say it, he, in and around the 18-yard box, is probably the most dangerous centre-back this season. Like, the guy's numbers are ridiculous. It's a good header. It's a good finish. We get in 1-0 half-time. You know, other than their chance hitting the crossbar, Frankfurt did not threaten us. They are a poor side. You know, I'm not going to come out here and say it's the best win, the best performance of our season, but there's a lot of things we can build on. You know, it is on paper probably the best. You know, Man City away was very good as well. But that performance for me, if we can go out there and play like that against Man City, we may actually beat them, because our fixtures between now, I don't think the next round of the Champions League actually played until March. And when you look at, we've got City, then we've got Man United, then we've got, Newcastle, then we've got Arsenal. Like, our fixtures between now and between the next round of the Champions League, those next games, those next five, because Fulham away is not easy. Then we've got a trip to Anfield. Like, it is going to be really, really tough. And I still want Thomas Frank to get sacked, because I don't think we have been anywhere near the level this season in the Premier League. Like, when you look at our Premier League form right now, it is absolutely disastrous. You know, we haven't won a game in our last 5, but somehow we beat Borussia Dortmund. Somehow we beat Frankfurt. And that is because teams come out and take the game to you. They don't sit back under a low block. They actually want to play progressive football. And do you know what? Tonight, that was a really, really good win for us. It really was. You know, we've got plus 10 goal difference in the Champions League. You know, and Dominic Solanke, just like he did last season, scores away at Frankfurt, comes off the bench, is a good through ball. I thought Xavi Simons played really, really well tonight. I'm not going to lie. And we go out there and we take advantage. And Dominic Solanke puts the ball into the bottom left corner, and it's a fantastic finish. And no one can say we didn't deserve that tonight. When you look at the momentum chart, other than the opening 10 minutes or so in the second half, Frankfurt didn't offer anything. They didn't. Look at that. Momentum totally dominated by us, as I showed you the match stats. But we have to build on this now. You know, it's fantastic we've made the top 8 and we looked good in the Champions League. But we have to go out there and follow this up by beating Manchester City. We beat Borussia Dortmund and then we drew with Burnley. We have to go out there and put a positive performance in against Manchester City. If the club are going to be behind Frank, then at the end of the day, this is what we've got to sit and deal with now. If they think he is the right man to lead us forward, then it is what it is. But again, like I said, our fixtures, these 3 in particular, before we get into North London Derby, that opening, 7 days of February, playing both Manchester teams, Newcastle, and of course, Arsenal. It's not going to be an easy month, February. I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be really, really tough. But we play like we did today. We've certainly got a chance of beating a lot of teams. Against the Borussia Dortmund game, we were by far better. We had higher XG, higher shots, more shots on target. Look at the match stats. This is the Borussia Dortmund match stats. Higher possession, more XG, more shots, more big chances created. Then you look at the match stats in the Burnley game, right? Again, higher XG, higher possession. We just seem to be taking our chances in Europe compared to taking our chances in the Premier League. And we aren't going to be against a low block. This game right here is not going to be a low block. Let's have a look at what they've got as a predicted lineups. Gallagher back in the team. Bissouma back in the team. Van der Ven back in the team. Look, I'm not going to lie. This Man City game is going to be very, very difficult. If we lose that game, I still want him out. You know, I know the club are going to back him. I know the club are sitting there saying right now, we all need to get behind Thomas Frank. For me, I'm not prepared to go and sit through another 4 or 5 months of this, because at the end of the day, our football this season has been absolutely shambolic. I'm not going to lie. It hasn't been anywhere near the level. But make sure you check out that Benfica game, because at the very, very end, their goalkeeper, I've just seen the highlights on Twitter. I can't show you for copyright reasons, but he's just scored a bullet header at the very, very end. But look, do you know what? 3 points is 3 points. We've made the top 8. We're going to be in the next round of the Champions League with home advantage. Hopefully, we get a kind draw and we can make the quarterfinals. But if we were to bring in a new manager and get a new bounce, I'm not saying we're going to win the Champions League, but crazy things have happened. We made the final before. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you go down, hit that subscribe button. The road to 20,000 subscribers, like I said, is well and truly on. Make sure you check out the video from earlier regarding the injuries we've had to this team. And I'll see you next time. Thank you all for watching. I am out.